In the south of Russia, between Europe and Asia, towers a mighty mountain range, the Greater Caucasus. The influence of these mountains reaches far down into the valleys. From the glaciers of the main ridge to the canyons by the Caspian Sea, a wilderness with an unbelievable diversity. Craggy, shrouded in legend, and even today, largely unexplored. Europe's mountain worlds are the stuff of legend. The Pyrenees, the Alps, and the extensive Carpathian Arc traverse the continent from west to east. At the eastern edge, however, beyond the Crimea and the Black Sea, appears a 1,000-kilometer-long mountain range that puts everything else in the shade, the Greater Caucasus, which has more than a dozen peaks higher than the highest Alp. The mountains begin right behind the spa city of Sochi. Its proximity to the Black Sea makes the West Caucasus one of the snowiest regions in Europe. A stone's throw away from the busy coastal metropolis lie magical primeval forests that, in late autumn, are already thickly covered with snow. The forests are home to the last Caucasian wisents. The icy cold doesn't bother them at all. But their food is increasingly hard to find under layer upon layer of snow, and twigs are a poor substitute. Soon, these animals weighing nearly a ton won't be able to cover their daily energy needs. Today, there are once again about 500 wisents. At the end of the 1920s, they were extinct in the wild. Only releasing reverse-bred creatures ensured their return. Driven by hunger and instinct, the herd starts moving. The animals sense that the ground will soon be covered in 3 or 4 meters of snow or more. Too much even for Europe's biggest land mammal. At some point, the alpha bull gives a signal, and a long, arduous trek begins. The migration is uphill, out of the low-lying clouds until well over the tree line. Up here there is less snow, but it is colder and more exposed. An icy, high-altitude wasteland, inhospitable and barren. The herd moves higher and higher. What is it that drives them onwards? Many high-altitude valleys are snowed in and dangerous. One false move, and the cumbersome animals could fall or sink into a crevasse. Other herds join the trek, moving across endless expanses of snow. At the end of their climb, the wisents reach the territory of the chamois. In the white wilderness, even these huge animals look tiny and lost. But they hold out. What are they waiting for? The answer comes with the southerly winds. Towering clouds collide heavily with the mountains and stick fast. The steep mountainsides are no obstacle for the wind. Within minutes, the plateau is hit by a storm, accelerated by icy downdrafts. It ends as quickly as it began. The sky over the plateau remains miraculously clear. An area of high pressure sees off the clouds. The winter sun can now warm the plateau, newly freed from snow. Well preserved under the icy blanket, the grasses are still nutritious. For a short moment, summer comes to the Caucasian winter. It now becomes clear why it was essential for the Wisents to weather the storm. Only at this altitude can they find pasture land in the winter and thus survive the cold season. Surprisingly, the meadows at 3,000 meters in the West Caucasus are ideal winter grazing for large vegetarians. The Devil's Gate provides a suitably spectacular backdrop. To the north of the Caucasus lie extensive plains in the rain shadow of the main range. Here the steppes of Kalmykia begin, with their very special inhabitants. Saiga antelopes are steppe dwellers. They prefer to be in the open, as they seem to be permanently on the run, regardless of what sets them off. Winter in the steppes is hard, although they lie 3 kilometers below the Wisents' pasture land. The Saiga's trunk-like proboscis was for many years a mystery to science. Today we know that it provides the animals with a kind of air conditioning. To protect the lungs of these long-distance runners, the icy air of the steppes is moistened and warmed in their conspicuous nasal sacs. If one approaches the Caucasus from the north, one can't miss the twin peaks of Mount Elbrus, at over 5,600 meters high. Standing to one side of the main range, Europe's highest mountain towers majestically over the foothills. A dormant volcano which is a good 800 meters higher than Mont Blanc. Beyond the other double summits of Mount Ushba in Georgia, Europe gradually becomes Asia. Hard to imagine that this boulder-strewn landscape could support life. But towards the end of April, loud calls echo through the mountains. Caucasian snowcocks. They live in the stony crags up to the vegetation line. Early travelers called the shy birds mountain turkeys. The ibexes are nervous. Spring is avalanche season. Thousands of tons of snow thunder down into the valleys, turning mountainsides into death zones. It's unclear whether animals have an inner warning system for avalanches, a sort of sixth sense. If they do, in the Caucasus at least, it doesn't always seem to help, with many animals falling victim to avalanches. The snowcocks certainly aren't bothered. The ibexes hesitate. Will the snow hold? It's much faster descending the soft surface of a thawed-out snowfield than a slope of scree. The ibexes of the Caucasus are also called turs. The females form small herds away from the adult males. In spring, almost all the females give birth and are thus even more cautious than usual. Bears, wolves, or lynx aren't usually found so high up, but when a lot of young are around, it's tempting for predators to try and climb up here. The kids plunge head over heels down the mountainside, good practice for emergencies and always within sight of their mother. Such happy capering is often short-lived. In spring, phases of good weather may only last for a short while. There's no trusting the seasons here. Within the space of 24 hours, it can turn from autumn to a hot summer's day, and then to deepest winter. Storms and plunging temperatures are part of everyday life here. This is probably the reason that many animals that we know from the Alps, above all marmots, haven't established themselves in the Caucasus. The combination of the region's rich landscapes and its harsh climate have nevertheless produced an enormous diversity of wildlife. In the eastern foreland of Dagestan lies a gigantic wandering sand dune, the Sarikun. 260 meters high and around a kilometer long, the dune is a miniature version of the huge deserts of Central Asia, here on the edge of Europe. A toad-headed agama. In times of danger, the agama does a disappearing act. Like agamas, long-eared hedgehogs have their largest populations in Central Asia, with a European outpost here in the Eastern Caucasus. Their striking ears are not only used to hear with, but also regulate the animal's body temperature. The female has but one aim in mind. As their name implies, wandering dunes are constantly on the move, driven by the wind, without which the dune would be long overgrown. No plant can put down roots in this non-stop sandblasting. The agamas have adapted. Special rows of scales protect their eyes and nasal openings. Away from the sandstorm, in the basement of the dune, the hedgehog suckles its young. Long-eared hedgehogs are extremely fertile animals. In good years, litters can be up to 10 strong. In this case, the mother only has 2 babies to look after, but even then she needs the occasional break. In a few days, the baby hedgehogs will be undertaking their first excursions. In the meantime, they just try and avoid painful perforations. The morning after the storm is calm and promises to be a hot desert day. The hedgehogs will put off going out as long as possible. Like their short-eared relatives, they steer clear of the hot sun. Agamas, by contrast, hunt in daytime. A bad choice of prey. The beetle protects itself with a caustic secretion which kills, if not the predator, then at least its appetite. This time, a portion this size will keep the agama going all day. Dinner or danger? Neither nor. The little Montpellier snake is just looking for some shade. In the dry northern Caucasus, spring is short and intense. The time has to be put to good use. A centipede on the hunt. These aggressive arthropods eat anything they come across, neutralizing even larger prey with their strong toxin. The young hedgehog is not immune to the effects of the centipede's poison. The decisive thing is speed and making sure it bites the right end. As desert specialists, the hedgehogs can go for long periods without water. Without food, however, they will only survive for a few days. The Saricum dune, small, isolated, and yet Russia's only real sandy desert. The origin of the dune lies close by. The valleys of the eastern foothills are lined with mighty sandstone bluffs. In the western Caucasus, canyons of limestone lead up to the high-altitude summer. At the beginning of July, many of the mountain meadows are in full bloom. A botanist's dream, the Caucasus is home to more than 6,500 kinds of plants, of which a quarter occur only here. In the shade of a glacial valley, turs are bowing to each other. They support themselves on their elbows in order to get at the salty earth. Salt is scarce at high altitude, which explains the intensity of the turs' efforts. Even though their hooves aren't suited to the task, the animals scrape away at the earth as if addicted. Has the guy next to you found a better spot? That may mean trouble. Everywhere, heads are being knocked together. A good opportunity for a trial of strength, albeit a playful one. All this activity doesn't go unnoticed. One floor up, they're also scraping and scratching. The chamois, however, aren't seeking salt, but cooling snow, softened by the sun. Which for the kids means all the fun of the slopes. The older chamois are still hesitant. The snow doesn't yet have the right consistency. Who dares to be first in the arena? Each tries to outstare the other. Then they're off, and the snowy slope becomes a dance floor. The undecided have to join in, whether they like it or not. In the end, they're all on their feet. With ever wilder moves, the chamois leap about the snowy slope. Their apparently limitless energy comes from the fact that, having adapted to life at high altitude, the animals have extra large lungs. Pirouettes only count if performed with a successful four-footed landing. Second attempt. No problem. The chamois' behavior has no deeper meaning, but appears merely to express their zest for life. Sure-footed and agile, they show what they're made of. The cumbersome turs are left with the role of spectators. Another change in the weather is brewing. From the Black Sea, heavy clouds roll over the ridge. The animals are nervous. It's very possible that they sense the rising electricity long in advance. The Western Caucasus is one of the rainiest regions in Europe. The storm breaks. First rain, then hail, and the next moment, snow. The winter makes a reappearance in the middle of summer, even though it may not look like it. For Caucasus-hardened species, not that big a deal. Morning mist in the steppes of Kalmykia. In the shade of some of the Caucasus' tallest peaks begins an offshoot of the once gigantic belt of steppes that used to extend from Mongolia to Eastern Europe. It's not easy to get a good overview in the sea of grass. For the Saiga antelopes, it's the beginning of an exciting period. As ever, the herds are restlessly roaming the steppes. The females, however, are gradually separating themselves from the rest. They are heavily pregnant and not as mobile as usual. One after another, they slink off. White storks on their way north make a stopover in the steppes. Fully focused on the hunt, they ignore the grunting Saigas. Missed. Gotcha. The sand lizard doesn't stand a chance. Or does it? Whatever's waggling is instinctively grabbed onto, but the lizard has merely discarded its tail. The stork has to make a snap decision: starter or main course. What's happened to the rest of my lunch? Long gone. Life goes on. Or starts anew. The first young were born last night. Well hidden and no bigger than a hare, the kids have to get by on their own. The mother only comes in the morning and evening to suckle. How they manage to find their young again in the endless steppes is a mystery. Not all the kids are steady on their feet. This one seems to be injured and abandoned. It bleats pitifully at every adult female it sees, but Saigas only accept their own young. Even if a mother were to lose her kid, it wouldn't adopt an orphan. The young antelope stays hungry and lonely. For now, it can only take cover, as especially in the birthing period, danger lurks everywhere in the steppes. Its fate appears to be sealed. If the herd moves on, it is lost. Once again, an unattached mother approaches. This is the call the kid has been waiting for. The little Saiga has one day to build up its strength and learn to walk. The antelopes are getting restless. Once again, it is the males doing the hustling. Nothing can hold back the Saigas. Our little straggler can't afford to miss the boat. Europe's last Saigas are in extreme danger of extinction, as their horns are sold in China as potency products. As it is almost impossible to prevent poaching, the proportion of males has fallen to 5%. Autumn draws into the western Caucasus as early as August. The countryside is wreathed in fog. It takes a while for the sun to dispel the persistent misty veil. The mountain weasants have once again left the forest and climbed up to the open plateau. This time it's not hunger that has led them here. It's the juggernaut's mating season, and undergrowth and brushwood just get in the way. The bulls need a good view and plenty of room. Even though the sun has finally broken through the clouds, it'll take a long time to chase the mist out of the valleys. At last, the herd girds its loins. Young bulls try to drive cows together to form little harems. This inevitably brings conflict as they argue with each other over cows being hustled from one group to another. The older bulls are less active, preferring to watch and wait. When all the cows are assembled, they sort out those that are willing to mate. Tiresome young bulls are driven off. Brown bears are no match for a fully grown weasant. This female has every reason to keep her distance. The bulls are much more aggressive than usual, and escaping across open ground is not an option. On the slope, things are getting serious. The hill is fought over as an important vantage point. While the young bulls tussle, the alpha weasant makes the decisive move. These three have sensibly decided to stay where they are and start grazing. Caucasian brown bears are mostly vegetarian. For today, the winner has been clearly established. The boss presents his massive side view. That should be enough to impress his young rivals. Time for some grooming, and wherever weasants wallow, new habitats form. A hoof print, a few dried stalks of grass, and already bumblebees can make a nest. Inside the miniature haystack, the queen is hatching her eggs. Worker bees are collecting nectar in nearby meadows brimming with flowers. The shrubs, some as tall as a man, are a paradise for insects in the late summer. Small birds are magically drawn to these gardens. Some develop astonishing hunting strategies. The warbler shoots upwards through the umbel like a diver surfacing. Attacked from below, the flies don't stand a chance. Others don't even wait for their prey to land. Late summer is the best time of year in the mountains. The periods of good weather last longer, and not every rain cloud has a whole thunderstorm in tow. It's as if nature were gathering its strength before the onset of pitiless winter. In summer, it's clear to see how the big Caucasus glaciers are shrinking. At the same time, new glaciers are forming, albeit smaller ones. A protective layer of dust and debris covers the snow, slowing down the melting process. Even today, the power of more than 1,000 glaciers shapes the Caucasus and the mountains well beyond its borders. Meltwater and heavy rains have formed wide valleys in the plains of the Caspian lowlands. In the midst of the semi-desert, lush riparian forests are formed, called tugai. Imperial eagles build their eyries in tall, single trees. Here they have an excellent lookout over their surroundings, but are themselves highly visible and open to attack as soon as they show up in the eyrie. This lesser grey shrike gets on the old eagle's nerves to such an extent that it eventually takes off again. Thousands of years of erosion and flooding have sculpted a unique landscape out of the soft sandstone. The reptile-rich canyons are the territory of short-toed snake eagles. The female has killed a highly poisonous Levantine viper. Snake eagles make a clear distinction between poisonous and non-poisonous. With poisonous snakes, they always remove the head before bringing home the dinner. The male was a bit too quick and now has to go into a holding pattern. Flash floods have hollowed out the sandstone near the bank. At the bottom of these potholes, desert ants are looking for flood victims. The locust is injured and unable to escape. Within a few minutes, the much bigger insect is overpowered and on its way to the ant's nest. The eaglet is insatiable. Its parents bring it one snake after another. But when it comes to consuming them, the chick is on its own. The young of the little owls that live below the eyrie are also waiting for provisions. Snake eagles eat their prey whole. The longer the snake, the longer it takes. Owls hunt smaller birds, insects, and reptiles. The parent bird hesitates. The eaglet needs a break. For the last time, the parent owl brings prey home. Tomorrow, the owlets will start learning to hunt for themselves. The final morsel. Autumn in the mountains is short and can turn into deepest winter at any moment. For the Wisents, it's time to leave the plateau and move down to the still snow-free forests. Here, too, autumn is making its presence felt. The tall shrubs are dying, leaving rich pickings for the weasant. The furry behemoths push through the jungle of wilting vegetation. The giant hogweed dwarfs even fair-sized animals of the Caucasus. The red deer are getting more restless by the day and leave the protection of the forest. While the does try to head back to the valley, the stags drive them ever higher into the mountains. Their journey takes them through fields of rhododendrons up to the snow line. The stags, too, want to be in the open when mating. Every day, newcomers join them at 3,000 meters. In autumn, using up so much energy is risky. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the weather turns. Snow covers the plateau. In less than an hour, winter has arrived. The chamois have been taken by surprise while looking for salt, but are otherwise not bothered. Their mating season also takes place in late autumn. Chamois were made for life at high altitude. Red deer are less at home at such heights. The arduousness of the climb shows. In the thin air, this stag is straining every sinew and won't have any strength left for a duel. The old stag moves on without a fight. Europe's highest mountains, the last refuge for Caucasus weasants. A region unique in its rich diversity. The influence of these mountains reaches way beyond their borders and leaves its mark on the land between Black and Caspian Sea. The mysterious mountain world of southern Russia. The Greater Caucasus.